Well, hello, it is strawberry season, and then it is blueberry season, raspberry, blackberry. It is berry season all summer long. And the best part of that is to have them with some type of wonderful baked good, which for me can be a sweet biscuit. So these are my grandma's biscuits. She would make them every so often when I would come over, and I love them because they're simple, they're quick, they're a biscuit, so they're light, flaky, fluffy. I have them slightly on the sweeter side, so they just blend really well with those like wonderful flavored, ripe, in-season berries, which is what you want. So let's make some biscuits because if you haven't made them, this is the time to make them. So to start, we're gonna go with some dry ingredients. So we're gonna start with all-purpose flour. Now, anytime I use flour, I'm always talking about this. I make sure to scoop it and overfill that measuring cup and then just lightly push it off. If you just take the measuring cup in there and you just jam pack it full of flour, it usually overfills your flour, which sounds like not a big deal, and your baked good will probably be fine, but it will have too much flour. So it could be drier, it could be coarser, not good. Then I'm gonna put in some sugar. Now, we're not gonna make these like a cake sweet, but instead we're just gonna lightly sweeten them so they have a little bit of sweetness, but we want those berries to really sweeten them. We want that to actually come out because that's the point of these biscuits. So then we're gonna put in some baking powder. These are pretty much a simple baking powder biscuit, which means the baking powder is really gonna help make them light, airy, grow, rise. It's what you want. We don't have leavener like yeast, obviously. A biscuit has baking powder. So then we're gonna put in a little bit of soda. Soda again helps browning, so it really kind of gives you that crispy top that you want, so it's important. And then some salt. Now, that's pretty simple dry ingredients. And I just like to mix that up with my hand. You know, I say this a lot, certain things are just easier with your hand. And I know with pastry, you can always, if you want to, you could do it with a pastry cutter, but guys, our hands work so well. So I'm taking my butter and I'm just cutting it up in, you know, a small dice. It doesn't have to, it can be irregular. It doesn't have to be perfect. The thing is, you want cold butter. So I had this in the fridge and just took it out. And the reason I'm putting it in smaller pieces is it's just quicker and easier to work into the dough. So I first put it into the flour and I kind of just push it and shake it around and make sure all those little individual pieces are coated in flour, because then they're gonna be easier to work into the flour. So as I'm doing that, you can see they're kind of just coated. I'm now gonna start taking them and pushing between my thumb and forefinger on each hand. I'm gonna keep doing that until I get a nice kind of wet sand, coarse cornmeal. I know this can be like an odd descriptive word, but once you do it a couple times, you'll get it. You kind of just a dry crumb. So I'm gonna keep working this in and we're gonna make biscuits. That's how simple this is. So I've worked this all in and you can see it's kind of just this like wet, coarse sand. It kind of holds together, but then it's super just flaky and falls apart too, which is exactly what you want. So I have some buttermilk. A buttermilk biscuit, you can make it with acidulated milk, so a little bit of lemon juice or vinegar with your milk, but when it's with buttermilk, it's gonna be better. I take 1 egg, so they're kind of leavened a little bit with the egg. It just helps and it makes them a little bit richer, and then a little bit of vanilla. Again, now a normal biscuit, no, I don't put vanilla in. But when we're doing one for kind of like a dessert, I love to have just a hint of that vanilla. I think it just really blends well and just, it's just good. When does vanilla hurt anything? It doesn't. So I'm mixing that up just because it's easier to incorporate then. And I'm just gonna take all this. You can make a well in the center. I mean, honestly, it's gonna get messy either way. I'm just gonna dump it right in. We have all that goodness right in there. And good buttermilk. It really does just make it so much better. So I'm gonna start mixing it up with just a fork. It's gonna obviously be pretty wet. It's gonna get pretty shaggy. Look at how it instantly is picking up that liquid. Now, we're really, really shaggy. We're really wet, but that's the beauty of these biscuits. That's what's gonna make them like not too dry. They're gonna be like that beautiful flakiness. So to get them flaky, this is where a little bit of extra effort comes in and it goes a long way. I'm gonna take some flour and you can be kind of, this is a wet enough batter that you can be kind of, you know, heavy on the flour, which usually we would say don't be. I'm gonna push these out onto that floured surface. Make sure to get all of that out there. And then I'm gonna start working it around just to make sure it kind of stays together. I'm gonna fold it up over itself, kind of try to form a rough rectangle, maybe even a square, say, but I want it to actually start holding it together in kind of a cohesive mass. And that's kind of the hard part, because at first you're gonna say, this is way too sticky. Use that flour, keep working with it here until it wants to form a nice cohesive mass. And yes, I will say, obviously we're not trying to work it too much, but I am gonna flatten it out. And then what I'm gonna do, and this is kind of the odd part, I'm gonna cut it in thirds. Now, so what we're kind of trying to mimic are layers. It's not a puff pastry, it's not a croissant, but when we cut it into thirds and lay them on top of each other, like so, and they're not perfect, that's okay. But what we're doing is mimicking that wonderful kind of layered process. We're gonna do it one more time. And don't feel bad if you have to kind of use a little bit more flour, put it on your surface, and then I'm just gonna press these down. And this time we're gonna cut them. So what we've been doing is kind of like you would on a croissant or like on certain other things. We kind of have that butter worked into there. It's creating those layers. And so now as we pushed it out and pushed it kind of back together, it created little pockets in there. And then as they bake up, those pockets are gonna grow. And they're gonna have even more flakiness and more layers. So I'm just doing this roughly by hand because there is no reason to me to get a rolling pin out to make all that work. Look at how beautiful that is. So I'm gonna take my cutter, use whatever cutter you like. We're gonna make a cut. Look at that. These, to me, are wonderful because you can make them quickly. You know, say you have that surprise where like people are coming over, which I'm always like, who surprisingly is coming over? I don't have people coming over and doing that. I also live in the middle of nowhere, so that could be why. But you could pull these out and have no problem. You could also at this point freeze them and have them ready to go whenever you want them. So I'm gonna push the rest of the dough back together, cut out the last couple, and we're gonna bake them. I have them on a parchment lined baking sheet, and the one is always gonna look for me a little bit bigger because that's the last bits that I pushed together in the biscuit cutter because I'm not wasting it. We're gonna have that final biscuit. So I take a little bit more buttermilk, and yeah, it can kind of give it the right top, but this is actually just for me a glue that I'm gonna put the sugar on top with, since these are for a dessert. And you know, you're going to this work, let's just make them special, let's make them delicious, let's make them look pretty. It all goes into it. Yeah, it does. I'm gonna put this on top and then take a little bit of turbinado sugar, which is sugar in the raw. It's bigger pieces of sugar that haven't been processed down to a fine sugar. And I'm just gonna sprinkle them on top. And we're gonna get then that nice kind of crispy, crackly, kind of crunchy. It's good. They kind of caramelize in the oven. So biscuits and pastry in general, we make it cold. That butter needs to be cold, and then we bake it what? Hot. And that is what's gonna actually really help the butter to really puff up because it's going to release its like steam. They're gonna grow. So we put them into a hot oven. And now for the beautiful part, the point of these beautiful things. We have strawberries. So I hulled some strawberries. Now hulling really just means if you can go down at an angle inward to the center, go around, and you actually take out kind of a cone-like shape on the top. That's when you hull a strawberry. Now honestly, when I'm at home on my own, I don't always go to that work. I'll sometimes just, you know, kind of go down and cut the top off, and then I just slice these up. So a lot of times you'll see where you just like macerate the berries. That's where you put sugar on them, they sit and they extrude their juices. You know, if they're in season, they're ripe, and they have good flavor, which how do you know if they have good flavor? You taste one, they're good. I don't like to put tons of sugar on them. They have the sweetness, they're delicious. Instead, I always put just a little bit of limoncello on it. So it's a lemon liqueur. It has a sweetness to it, probably somewhat, but more so it just dresses them to me perfectly. You know, it adds a brightness like a lemon juice would. It kind of just, anytime I'm doing any fresh fruit on something, I add limoncello. I think it brings out the best of that fruit, the best flavor. And I think in a way, it really kind of macerates them too. So it's doing both. So I'm just stirring them up with that limoncello. That's all I want. Let them sit and kind of just marinate. Some of their juices will come out and they'll just have a little dance party with the limoncello. So I'm gonna put these aside. We're baking our biscuits. It's a good day when you have strawberries and biscuits. Like, it's a good day. You're gonna like this. I'm gonna just try one more. Oh, with the lemon, so good. I'm gonna eat them all. You guys, they're cooling, they're beautiful. You know what, I already ate one because I couldn't help it, but they are beautiful. And this is what I love about this recipe. It is a no-fail perfect biscuit. It has a crackly, kind of beautiful, crispy top with that sugar. And it's exactly what you want. So, we have all the components here we need. We have our berries. I did whip some cream for you. You can do whatever you want. I think you need to cut them open, You just need to open it up. Look at that flakiness. Look how tender it is. There's some good moistness to it, but it's still tender, and that's exactly what you want. So we have our macerated berries. The lemon you just kind of smell, but more so what you smell is a delicious berry. Because I think that's what the lemon does, it really brings it out. I mean, limoncello, which it makes a huge difference. Now I whipped some cream because we're alive and we gotta enjoy it, you guys. If you are living and you are breathing and you're on this side of the ground, you need to enjoy it with some indulgences. Now, we're not gonna have it every night, except during berry season. So, we have all our components. I put the lid, kind of the top of the biscuit back on top. To me, it's just needed. Get a little bit of all that in there. You guys, I need you all to come in here, load up on biscuits, load up on strawberry. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, having grown the berries makes it even the better, but these are delicious. What I love about it is the berries, the ripeness, the season, it shines through. It's what I'm tasting, it's what I'm really experiencing. The biscuit is the perfect vehicle. Just sweet enough without really being sweet. Flaky, tender, great flavor, if I do say so. These are perfect if you're ready for strawberries and shortcake. If you want a perfect thing on a weeknight, these make so fast. You're gonna be the best biscuit maker around. So I hope you try these. I hope you love them. I hope you share them. More so, I hope you share the recipe around. Because yeah, that helps me. It helps so many people see how fun and easy, good, delicious food is to make at home. Because if I can do it, you can do it, and we can all do it. And the world is gonna be a better place if we are kind, if we are happy, well-fed, and making biscuits. So check my website, wiseguide.com, for this recipe, so many other recipes. And until next time, I'm gonna be knee-deep in berries. I should probably go pick some more too, but first I should eat more. So, berries.